That day, my younger sister Candace's wedding was being celebrated by more than 150 guests. Under a glittering chandelier, the bride and groom smiled radiantly, and everything was supposed to be the picture of perfection, an enviable, flawless day. But not for me. In the next instant, a stream of red wine arsed through the air and poured mercilessly down on me from above. The cold liquid seeped into my silk dress, the sweet grape scent stinging my nose. In my ears, the sound of drip, drip, drip echoed far too loudly. A moment of silence. Then, chuckles spread through the room, swelling into a storm of cruel laughter. Serves you right. Maybe this will teach you a lesson. Candace's shrill voice rang out across the hall. The guests stared at me with curiosity. My parents wore satisfied expressions. Not a single person stepped in to defend me. No tears came. Instead, something inside me snapped. This wasn't just humiliation. I would make sure justice was served under the law. My name is Tiffany, I'm 30 years old, and I work as a surgeon at a university hospital in New York. Becoming a doctor was my dream, born from my own determination. But my family, especially my father, never supported it. What's the point of a woman becoming a doctor? You'd be better off finding a good man to marry. That's the greatest happiness for a woman. That was his favorite phrase. My mother and Candace echoed him, and the day I announced I would apply to medical school, the three of them stared at me in disbelief. You're wasting your youth just studying. Girls should focus on being pretty and social. They couldn't accept that I had chosen a path outside their idea of what a proper woman should be. While Candace begged for designer handbags and my parents indulged her, I paid my own tuition with scholarships and part-time jobs. I fought tooth and nail for my medical license. Countless nights I worked shifts until dawn, collapsing onto my desk in exhaustion. The burn scars on my hand, the sweat and tears of hospital training, no one in my family ever knew, and they never cared to know. And last year, I finally achieved another dream, buying a seaside villa of my own. Through relentless saving and sacrifice during grueling hospital shifts, I secured my sanctuary. The scent of salt in the air, the calm rhythm of the waves, the endless horizon framed by my windows, everything about that villa was proof that my efforts had been rewarded. It was my irreplaceable refuge. That was why I could never hand it over to anyone. From the beginning, I had a bad impression of Justin, Candace's fiancé. The son of a local politician and a secretary to a council member, he flaunted his status. The very first time we met, after asking my profession, he smirked and said without hesitation, "A doctor, huh? So, you must be loaded." I wasn't surprised Candace had chosen a man like him, but I was disgusted. She had always been interested only in men who could boost her image, like accessories to be shown off. Then, a few weeks before the wedding, my mother called me out of the blue. Candace is looking for a house to move into after the honeymoon. It has to be a wonderful place, something impressive enough for Justin's family. I thought it was just small talk. Really? I hope they find a good one, I replied while stirring soup for dinner. But my mother's voice grew more insistent. She really loves that seaside villa you bought. A newlywed couple needs a honeymoon house like that. A chill went down my spine. Steam rose from the pot as I gripped the receiver tightly. And Justin was saying too. That property's prime real estate. You don't find places like that easily. He said it would be perfect for hosting important people, given his work as a politician's secretary. She said it casually, but her words pierced me coldly. Tiffany, you're so busy, you hardly use that house anyway. Why not let them have it? I'm sorry, Mom. That house is precious to me. I worked so hard to get it on my own. I'm not giving it to anyone. The chill in her tone was immediate. What a selfish thing to say. Listen, Tiffany, families are supposed to help each other. You're an adult now, a doctor. The least you can do is celebrate your sister's new beginning. If you sacrifice a little, everything will work out for the best. Her words were meant to guilt-trip me, to demand my sacrifice as though it were natural. I clenched my teeth so hard my jaw ached. Which of us was truly selfish? The family who demanded I hand over what I earned, or me for trying to protect it? If family meant nothing but endless sacrifice, then it wasn't love, it was exploitation. My mother kept talking, but I no longer answered. I pulled the receiver from my ear and quietly set it back on the hook. The bubbling of the pot filled the room. Inside my chest, too, something was boiling, swelling hotter by the second. At the time, I had no idea it was the first warning sign of the storm to come. And then, the wedding day arrived. I had booked my own hotel room to attend. After changing into my dress, I walked into the grand ballroom where dazzling chandeliers shone over the 150 guests gathered. Candace's wedding, the place that should have been filled only with blessing, was where my life began to splinter. The hum of voices awaiting the bride and groom, the music of a string quartet, the scent of fresh flowers, everything was flawless, almost suffocatingly so. That was when my mother, seated beside me, suddenly grabbed my arm. "Tiffany, come to the waiting room." Now. With no room to resist, I reluctantly stood and followed her. The moment we stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted. The waiting room was cut off from the festive hall, a cold, tense space. On the table lay half-finished glasses of champagne and discarded chocolates, like a staging ground before battle. Standing there was Candace, her face triumphant, Justin with his chin lifted smugly, my father with his arms crossed like a guard, and on the sofa, Justin's father, Richard, a sitting politician. My mother stood behind me, blocking any escape. "So you've come, Tiffany." Richard's voice was quiet, yet heavy, sharp, pure pressure. It felt as if his hand were pressing directly against my chest. Candace spoke first. "Hey, Tiffany, you really won't give us that house?" Her eyes pierced me, part mocking, part demanding, like she was addressing a child. "I worked hard for that house." "I can't." At my answer, Candace raised her voice. "That's a lie. You hardly even use it. Justin and I would live there right after the honeymoon." "You're just being stubborn." "Tiffany, your mother is right. Put your sister first. As the older one, it's your duty to give a little for the sake of family." My father's tone was solemn, but beneath it was an unspoken accusation. "If you don't yield, you're the one in the wrong." Justin smiled faintly, adding with a hint of irony, "As a doctor, you should understand the value of a property like that. Prime locations like this aren't easily found. For newlyweds like us, it's ideal. Indirect, but sharp." His smile concealed the blade of entitlement. "You should hand it over." Then Richard spoke quietly. "Tiffany, families are meant to support one another. I acknowledge your efforts. But isn't it your responsibility as the elder sister to lay a foundation for the happiness of the newlyweds?" His words sounded gentle, but carried authority and intellect so overwhelming they pressed down on my chest. Every gaze turned on me at once. Candace snapped impatiently. "You holding on to it is a waste. Justin and I could make so much better use of it. Mom told me you were going to give us the villa." My mother quickly added, "The first home for a newlywed couple sets the tone for their entire life. We can't embarrass Justin's family. That villa would be perfect." My father's voice rumbled low. "In politics, appearances are everything. To welcome supporters and guests, it has to be impressive. That house is more than a villa, it's a powerful asset for Justin." Candace folded her arms, smirking proudly. "Exactly. A grand house overlooking the ocean suits me. I could show it off to my friends. It makes me look like the true lady of the house." My mother sighed theatrically. Candace pressed harder. My father loomed with intimidation. Justin kept his polished but cutting calm, and Richard sat still, his authority sealing off every escape. I clenched my teeth, forcing my breath steady. Their eyes bore into me, demanding surrender. I stood in the center of a storm, pressure closing in from every side. No, that house is mine. I earned it with my own work. I'm not giving it to anyone. The tension in the room froze for a split second. Their faces flickered with shock, then irritation. But they quickly came at me again, as if combining their strength into a storm meant to break me. The air in the room was suffocating, as if even the oxygen had thinned. My mother fanned herself in irritation. My father jutted his chin forward, arms crossed in menace. Candace stood, stomping on her gown as she marched toward me. Enough already. You'll be single forever anyway. What difference does it make if you give me one house or two? You don't need them. I only met her rage with a cold stare. Then Justin stepped forward, his tone outwardly polite, as though calming the room. Well, Candace, don't raise your voice on such an important day. Yes, Candace. Guests might overhear. How embarrassing. My mother chimed in. Justin seemed to be the picture of reason. But when his eyes flicked toward me, I caught the twist of a cold calculation. He leaned closer, lowering his voice so only I could hear. Justin stepped forward, a gentle smile on his face. Tiffany, don't misunderstand. I hold no hostility toward you. But in my position as a secretary to a councilman and with my father serving as a sitting politician, I cannot ignore appearances. Discord within the family spreads quickly, and always with embellishment. He lowered his gaze, voice sinking further. Besides, my wife says you promised to give her the house. Are you saying she lied? I drew a sharp breath and met his eyes. Behind his courteous smile lurked a man wielding status as a weapon. Is this a threat? He shrugged lightly, with his smile intact. Not at all. A proposal. If you give it up, everyone wins. It's simple. There was no respect in his tone, only dismissal of my will. Never. I won't hand it over. Justin's eyes narrowed slightly before softening again into his false smile. Stubborn, aren't you? Candace, I'm afraid your sister won't see the reason. As if on cue, Candace screamed hysterically. See? Selfish as always. You're trying to ruin my wedding. Tiffany, why is it you always destroy other people's happiness? My mother shrieked. Then my father's voice boomed like thunder. Fulfill your duty as an older sister. I stepped back, my lungs crushed by the weight of the room. There's no point in continuing this. I'll return to the hall. After all, it would look stranger for the bride to have no relatives present at all, wouldn't it? I spat the words out and reached for the door. Stop right there. Are you running away? This conversation isn't over. Candace screamed after me, but I ignored her and stepped into the hallway on my way back to the ballroom. As I pushed open the doors, I was met with the cheerful hum of guests chatting happily. Smiling faces everywhere, all waiting eagerly for the bride and groom's entrance. Then, from behind me, came the shrill voice, shrieking down the corridor. Tiffany, where do you think you're going? Answer me. Before I could even turn, Candace stumbled into the hall after me, nearly tripping in her gown as she hurled herself forward. My parents followed close behind, shouting over one another in anger. The ballroom froze. Conversation cut off mid-sentence, the air shifting from lively chatter to stunned silence. Guests stared wide-eyed as the family chaos erupted before them. Smiles vanished, replaced by expressions of shock and morbid curiosity. You promised to give me the house. I never made such a promise. Liar. You said it. You remember? Who's the liar here? I have no memory of ever saying that. Candace's voice grew louder and louder. Murmurs swept through the crowd, camera flashes popping like fireworks. Listen, everyone. She's trying to ruin my wedding. All eyes turned to me. I said nothing. I simply walked forward, trying to put distance between us until Candace lunged for a wine glass from a nearby table. She snatched a full bottle of red wine from a passing waiter and, spinning around, raised it above me. Before I could react, the wine came crashing down. Thick red liquid drenched me from head to toe, soaking into my hair, dripping into my eyes. The cloying sweetness filled my nose as my silk dress turned scarlet, the liquid running like blood across the fabric. The room fell utterly silent. Every eye fixed on me. "I hate you, Tiffany." Candace's face twisted as she screamed like a child. The crowd gasped, then whispers rippled through the room. "Did you see that? Unbelievable." The whispers grew into soft, cruel laughter. Phones appeared, cameras raised, videos recording, as if this humiliation were the entertainment of the evening. No guest rose to stop her. No one stepped in. They just watched, eyes alight with intrigue, as though they'd stumbled upon the most delicious gossip. My mother folded her arms, nodding in smug approval. My father glared at me in silence. Justin forced a rueful smile, spreading his hands as if to say, "It's just a catfight between women." Even Richard, the politician, frowned faintly but did nothing to intervene. His silence was the strongest signal of all. Tacit approval. The laughter spread until it dominated the room, and I stood alone, drenched in red, on display for them all. Then Justin gently pulled Candace into his arms. "Calm down, Candace. This is your big day. Don't cry." His voice played the role of the soothing husband. But when his eyes flicked to me, they glimmered with cold contempt. "Tiffany, why not stop being so stubborn? Family harmony is what matters. If you made just one small sacrifice, no one would have to be unhappy." A murmur ran through the crowd. Every gaze turned back to me. No one knew the truth. But in this moment, the villain was me. That was the story the room had decided on. No one stepped forward to defend me. They watched, whispered, and laughed as though it were the highlight of the evening. Phones held aloft. Women covering their mouths, eyes bright with excitement. No one tried to stop it. They simply consumed the chaos as the evening's best entertainment. Then my mother stepped forward. "That's enough. Tiffany, you don't belong here. Are you really going to ruin this wedding any further?" My father gave a grave nod. Richard looked away, lips curled in the faintest smile. The silence confirmed it. "No one here is on your side. Leave." Her cold voice froze in the hall. I couldn't move. The weight of every stare pinned me in place, my fists clenching at the wet hem of my stained dress. "Didn't you hear me?" My mother stepped closer and grabbed my arm. Her thin fingers gripped with startling force. "Get out. Right now. You're an embarrassment." Dragged by her grasp, I was hauled out into the hotel lobby. My heels struck the marble floor, each click echoing too loudly. I felt the weight of every gaze stabbing into me. Guests, staff, even people loitering in the lobby turned to stare at my drenched dress, their eyes filled with a mix of shock and curiosity. Somewhere nearby, a phone shutter clicked softly. At that moment, I trembled only with shame and rage. I didn't yet know that the photos taken in that lobby would later spread across social media and become undeniable evidence of the truth. Hands shaking, I fumbled for my phone. My wet fingers slipped against the screen, tapping wrong over and over until finally the call connected. The person on the other end was Kelly, my best friend since college, and now a trusted attorney. The one person I could rely on when no one in my family could be trusted. "Tiffany? What's going on?" Her calm, steady voice spilled through the receiver. "Kelly, please. Help me." My voice shook as I laid everything out. How my sister had poured wine over me in front of 150 guests, how my family had laughed and jeered, how it was all rooted in their demand for the villa I had earned. For a moment, Kelly was silent. I could hear her sharp thoughts racing through the quiet. Then her voice came back, firm and strong. "I understand, Tiffany. I'll be there right away, and I'll call the police. Don't worry about anything." That dress is the best evidence you could have. So whatever you do, don't take it off. But I blurted out in protest. But Kelly, I can't face them like this. If I'm going to fight, I need to be dressed properly. There was a pause. Then Kelly's calm, steady voice returned. Fine. Then here's what you do. You can change, but you must preserve the dress as evidence. Seal it in a plastic bag while it's still wet and hand it to the police later. Once you've changed, you'll be able to walk back in with your head high. Preparation comes first. Her words eased my shoulders, just a little. The cold fire of anger still burned inside me, but reason and resolve began to intertwine. I would preserve the dress as evidence, change into a suit, and confront my family, armed with the law and justice. I walked down the hallway with Kelly still on the line. Eyes followed me through the lobby, stares sharp as blades. But I told myself, these witnesses, these stares, they will one day prove the truth. At last, I reached a hotel room. I grabbed a plastic bag and a towel, carefully folding the soaked dress inside, sealing it so not a drop would escape. It would hold its value as evidence. I showered, washing away the wine and the humiliation. In the mirror, my face stared back at me, burning with fury, but steadier now, alive with determination. I opened the closet and slid into my sharpest suit, navy jacket and trousers, crisp white shirt. Straightening my hair, I looked into the mirror and knew, never again would I let them break me. My anger was no longer a shame. It had become my armor. I changed into the sharpest suit I owned and drew a deep breath. In one hand, I held my phone. In the other, just as Kelly had instructed, the wine-soaked dress sealed in a bag. The moment I opened the door and stepped into the hallway, my phone buzzed. Kelly's name lit up on the screen. I'm here, Tiffany. Where should I meet you? I steadied my breath and answered in a low voice. Wait at the corner of the hallway. I'll come to you. Before long, I spotted Kelly standing at the corner of the hotel hallway. Behind her were several uniformed police officers. Their presence carried the weight of bodyguards, and I found my back straightening on instinct. The dress? Kelly asked. I lifted the bag in my arms. I have it. She gave a firm nod and gestured to the officers. One stepped forward and carefully took the bag. We'll take this. Inside was the dress still soaked with red wine, the weapon of my humiliation, now transformed into proof. Okay, let's go. I placed my hand on the door to the ballroom and drew a steady breath. The moment I pushed it open, the celebration would change, and my family's carefully built facade would begin to collapse in my hands. The moment I pushed open the grand doors of the hotel, every gaze in the ballroom swung toward me. Beneath the dazzling lights, the guest champagne lifted smiles froze in place. Even Candace's shrill voice and my mother's smug smile faltered. I straightened my shoulders and walked forward in my navy suit. Behind me, Kelly and the uniformed officers followed in perfect formation. The glittering celebration shifted in an instant into taut silence. Whispers rippled through the hall, spreading quietly to every corner. Candace stood rooted in her wedding dress, clutching a wine glass, her face flushed red with fury and fear. Whoa, what is this? My mother shouted, her voice swallowed by the room's uneasy silence. Justin had always flaunted his title as a politician's secretary, hiding behind a mask of decency. But now that mask had shattered, leaving him utterly shaken. One of the officers stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. Candace, we need to speak with you regarding the assault on your sister, Tiffany. Please come with us. What are you talking about? It was just a little sisterly fight. Candace shrieked. The officer remained unmoved. There are numerous witnesses, and we have physical evidence. First, you'll need to calm down and cooperate. He raised the sealed plastic bag containing the stained dress. This has already been submitted as evidence. We'll need you to accompany us to the station. Candace flailed, still screaming, but panic flickered in her eyes. Then she turned, jabbing a finger at Kelly. Who the hell are you? Kelly stepped forward, calm and composed. "I'm Tiffany's attorney. My name is Kelly." "An attorney? Hey, bringing in a lawyer over a family squabble? Tiffany, isn't that a bit much?" Richard said it in a tone of exasperation. Kelly swept her gaze across the hall and raised her voice toward the guests holding up their phones. "Ladies and gentlemen, the photos and videos you've taken will be important evidence. I'll be contacting you to submit them. Please cooperate." My mother panicked. "This is just a family matter. Everyone, you don't have to say a word." But Kelly cut her off, voice sharp as a blade. "Ma'am, attempting to suppress testimony is considered obstruction of justice. If you persist, you may be charged as an accomplice. And that applies to anyone in this room who tries to conceal evidence." The air snapped tight with tension. My mother went pale, collapsing into her seat. My father's mask of authority cracked, his face twisting with panic. Richard and Justin exchanged nervous glances, their political ambitions suddenly shadowed by the scandal looming over them. The videos submitted by multiple guests, determined not to be dragged down with the family, captured everything. Candace drenching me in wine, the guests laughing, my mother dragging me out of the ballroom. Every detail was recorded clearly. The atmosphere flipped completely. The woman who had been humiliated now stood tall, backed by the force of law. I whispered silently in my heart, "This is your downfall." My anger had transformed. It was no longer about revenge. It had become the power of justice itself. A few days later, Candace was arrested on assault charges. The wedding incident exploded across social media and the news. Headlines screamed, "Bride arrested for attacking sister at lavish ceremony." By the next day, it had spread nationwide. Videos and photos from the event circulated endlessly, exposing Candace's cruelty behind her fake smiles. My own position, too, became clear to the public. Images of my mother dragging me from the lobby, the sealed dress kept as evidence, and witness accounts of everything that happened during the ceremony left no doubt about the truth. Justin's true nature was also laid bare. At the wedding, he had played the role of the calm, supportive husband, soothing his wife. But the videos showed him sneering at me, applying pressure with quiet contempt. His credibility as a politician's secretary collapsed, and his mask of virtue was torn away. In the end, it became obvious to everyone that he cared only about protecting himself, even at the cost of abandoning his wife. As for Candace, there was no escaping the fallout. Her violence, her arrogance, her hysterics, all were broadcast nationwide. The mocking laughter of the guests, the way she used her wedding as a stage for humiliation, everything destroyed her carefully crafted image of the perfect bride. My mother, caught urging guests to remain silent, received a severe warning from the police for obstruction of justice. My father's career as a business owner collapsed as clients pulled away one by one, unwilling to be associated with the scandal. The family's social credibility collapsed completely, and their once glamorous, stable life came crashing down. Both socially and legally, the rightful conclusion had been reached. When the ordeal was finally over and peace began to return to me, I visited my villa for the first time in a long while. The sea breeze brushed gently against my cheek. The horizon stretched calm and unbroken. With a cup of warm tea in hand, I gazed out at the ocean in silence. The tears that welled up were not of grief or anger, but of relief, tears born from having overcome hardship with my own strength, and from knowing that justice had prevailed. Blood ties do not always define family. What matters is protecting your dignity and living a life that no one can take away. Here, in this place forever beyond their reach, I savored my own quiet victory and freedom, and that was the truest happiness of all. As a doctor, I would continue to save lives. And here, in this seaside sanctuary, I would hold on to my small moments of peace and keep moving forward.